everybody.
It's Sandy and David, and it is the first Friday of the month, so it must be Notables Bingo. How you doing, David?
I'm doing good, and I have to say I still love our introduction.
I did too. I like that. That was we kind of stole that a little bit from WikiTree Day, and I'm excited about that. If everybody wants a little hot gossip here, we've already started talking about planning for WikiTree Day for this year, and lots of cool things that we've got coming up that we hope to accomplish and see if we can get it through the system and figure things out. But it sounds like a lot of fun. WikiTree Day will be on a Tuesday this year, so it'll be interesting.
It'll be different, yeah.
So this is Bingo Notables, and our theme is going to be kind of in between rock greats, guitar greats, kind of mostly focusing on guitar greats. And I will tell you guys a little backstory about why I picked this topic for this one. I was talking to one of our favorite programmers, the one that does so much work. I don't think he ever sleeps. And we were just randomly talking about a fix that needed done. And in between, we were talking about just music. I had Spotify on. And if you guys notice that when you're in Discord, if you have Spotify on, it'll show anybody the song that you're listening to. And I happen to be listening to the Purple Enigma. And he said, I didn't know you like Prince. And I go, yeah, who doesn't like Prince? Prince is pretty cool. So this one kind of came up as a thank you to the programmers in general who generally like to listen to guitar, hard rock, things like that when they're coding. And the one in particular that I had a conversation with is Ian. So this is kind of a thank you to them. Just want to go through a quick presentation on who this Purple Enigma is, and it is Prince. So as we go through this, you guys let me know, what is your favorite Prince song? This real quick presentation. He's a really interesting character. David, did you listen to his music?
You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of Prince, but I don't dislike his music. It's just not necessarily my style. But I've been reading up on him the last couple weeks, and he does have a very fascinating story. You know, he had his career lasted almost 40 years. He started out when he was 18 and up until he passed away. So he had a long career with some real, even his story even before, he became a star was pretty interesting. But a lot of ups and downs. A lot of he was very much wanted to control his own life. He did not like the fact that the studios tried to control him, tried to make decisions for him. He produced his own music.
He did.
They have enough material to create 50 more albums.
He does.
Since he's passed, that he left behind in his vault right there.
And the vault supposedly
right there. You're
quite large and amazing how well he cataloged everything. He mixed it. He mixed his albums so they flow perfectly to his taste. So all anybody has to do is release them. I have no idea where this is going with his music. But the odd thing is there is a Wikipedia page specifically, not on his, but it's a separate page that says unreleased Prince music. That's how much he has. So it is kind of crazy, but you're right. And I love what everybody is saying for their favorite songs. Carol mentions When Doves Cry. There are guitarists out there, some very famous guitarists. I'm not going to say who they are because there are quite a few of them that say that that opening kind of lick and that scream where it has him playing his guitar, When Doves Cry, is one of the most difficult things to translate to music without it hurting your ears. So it's pretty well known. And as David mentioned, his creative control, which led him to have a symbol for a name. I think a lot of us were kind of like, when he did that, what in the world are you doing? Are you crazy? But he had his limit. He wanted to make music that spoke to him. He didn't want the studios to say, okay, we'll put out an album of love songs next time, or put out an album of punks next time.
Yeah, he was with Warner Brothers at the time, and they were trying to control the pace of how often he released albums. He wanted to release much more music, but they wanted to slow it down for whatever business decision they were making. And like you said, picking the type of music and the songs that he would release and not. So he did this to mess with them. I'm not quite sure exactly the rationale behind it.
And I'm not sure if it worked either.
Well, he did. He eventually got released from Warner Brothers. So whether it was because of this or not, I don't know. But I was told, or I wasn't told, but one of the things I read was that it created a huge hassle because you can't type this symbol. So they had to, Warner Brothers had to come up with a whole new font system and change everything just to be able to print the symbol.
It's funny because we don't have that on our keyboard, or anything. No. So we all started saying the artist formerly known as Prince as you went through, which
because this is an unpronounceable symbol. It is not. It's not just that we don't know it. It doesn't have a pronunciation. So. And
in its own way, it's kind of fascinating that he even thought of that. Let me take a quick break. Ruth did ask, this is your first time at bingo. So Ruth, right after your comment, I put a link to a bingo card. Just click on that bingo card and it will randomly generate. And when it's time to actually play one of the two bingo games, we'll give you the rules. But the first bit is to open up the bingo card and have your mouse ready. So Purple Rain, I heard a lot of people talking about Purple Rain in the chat. And Purple Rain, I think for me, I remember it coming out. I remember the movie. I remember everything about it. I think that's when it went mainstream a little bit more. Those of you that picked 1999 and Little Red Corvette, that was before this album. I was sold. I remember thinking when I heard the song 1999, my gosh, that's forever from now. And I'm not going to date myself, but that's forever from now. I can't imagine when it happens. And then I remember that was around the globe, pretty much the song when you had New Year's Eve coming into 1999. This album sold more than 13 million copies, 24 weeks on the Billboard, and it also got him an Academy Award for the film. Let me talk a little bit about the film. So the Purple Rain album is actually ranked in Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all times. And he not only did he get an Academy Award for the song in a movie, he also earned 2 of his first 3 Grammy Awards. So that's kind of cool too. And then I love this. So it's not verified, but it's all over the internet from other journalists. If you search, other journalists said it absolutely did happen. So somebody asked Eric Clapton, and I mean, if you've heard Clapton, and, David and I are talking about guitarists today, Clapton is definitely one of those up at the top. He was asked about being the world's best guitarist, and he supposedly replied, ask Prince. Like, I don't know, go ask Prince. Prince is a guitarist. He's supposedly the best. And I can tell you, I don't know how he created some of his music. Some of his music is so unique that for him to come out with it and then also place everything in an album so it flows is pretty amazing. Just a couple quotes. So Alicia Keys, this is pretty much when he passed. What he did was monumental because he did break down barriers. He did kind of start in R&B and funk and kind of went back to R&B and funk, but he also hit the pop. He became really, really good friends with Billy Gibbons. And for those of you that don't know who Billy Gibbons is from ZZ Top. And they became really good friends and would often talk and write. And then Bruce Springsteen said there's never been an artist quite like Prince. And I got to agree. How many of you saw his Super Bowl concert? That was pretty amazing as well. I think he is a true musical genius. I could not do what he does. He not only plays a guitar, but he can do the piano, the drums, the bongos. He's just very dynamic. And the last bit is, as we know, tragically, he did die from drug use. And that's kind of the shame that we lose a lot of musicians that way.
Yeah. Now, excuse me. Something that I learned that I didn't realize was how many artists he wrote music for, not just his own. And some of the songs that he had. One of my favorite groups when I was, I guess, a teenager, the Bengals and Manic Monday.
Yeah.
I had no idea he wrote Manic Monday.
See, now I'm going to have that.
He wrote
here all night.
He wrote Like a Prayer from Madonna, and Nothing Compares to You.
Sinead, right? Yeah.
So some really, really famous songs out there that they don't, when they tell you on the radio who's singing the song, they don't tell you the producer or the writers. It was amazing how many of those would be Prince if you knew about it.
And if you think about it, some of them do kind of sound like Prince, but stripped down. But at the same time, you think, well, this doesn't sound anything like Prince because it doesn't have that strong guitar, that strong drum sometimes it's in his music. So it's pretty fascinating. I will say that my first song that I heard from him was Little Red Corvette, and that's probably going to stay my favorite, that 1999. But it's really hard not to, bounce around when you hear like Raspberry Beret and things like that. One of I have two musical tragedies in my life is what I like to call. One of them involves the band Poison, and I'll tell you guys about that some other time. But with Prince, he actually played his last concert in Atlanta, and it's a small place. It wasn't a large arena, and he wasn't feeling well, so we thought he wasn't going to make it, so we didn't go. And it ended up being his last concert, but it was a really cool concert because not only did he play a lot of songs, but he ended up playing at the piano more than anything else. And I suspect that was because he wasn't feeling well, and that was part of the reason it led to his death later on. But I was like, I can't believe I didn't go because I thought he wasn't going to go, and I wasn't going to travel down rush hour Atlanta to go see somebody who's going to be a no-show. So that was kind of my bad. Well, David, let's talk about your page, Guitar Greats.
So people that have been around regularly know that every month when we do our show, we follow it up with it's not really a challenge, but it's a kind of an activity page where you can go on and find people that we presented in the bingo cards and sometimes additional notables as well. It's not a connectors challenge specifically because many of them will already be connected, like Prince himself. But a lot of these people, and for, again, I know we have some new people that may not know that I run with two other gentlemen, the Notables Project. And one of the things we struggle with is people create the profiles, the skeletal profile, but then they leave and they don't actually do the biographies and the sourcing. So a lot of these people may be connected to the tree, but they don't have biographies, they don't have sources, they don't have, both parents connected, spouses, children, all that stuff. So you'll see a mixture. You'll see there are definitely people who are connected or not connected, but then some that are. And then also the CC7s. Was working on one of my other projects today, and we had one celebrity who had 28,000 CC7.
Wow.
And the very next person had 17. So there's a big discrepancy there.
And we should also mention something that David talks about a lot. That when you're new, especially, you might be a little nervous and think, oh no, that says notables, I can't touch it. And remember, WikiTree, if a profile is open, it's collaborative. So if you can improve on a profile, including a notables, then feel free. And some of you, as we go through this list, you might think, oh, I know a song from them. I love that band. I love that singer. I love this. And take time to go work on them. And this is kind of the way that we combine a notable and also with the connections. So I noticed a lot of people in here, David, are doing the connectors challenge this month as well. So sometimes I get bored doing my own family connecting. I want to do something a little different. And I usually jump over to the monthly bingo list that David brings up in a lot
Yeah,
of different names.
and I'll tell you, the fun thing that I enjoy about the Notables project, it's not quite as serious as some of the other projects. You can go in and just kind of have fun. And if you just work for a half hour, an hour, and then move on, that's fine. You don't have to, adopt the project or profile and work on it for months at a time, which might be expected in some of the, the other projects. You don't even have to be a member. Just jump in, do what you can do, and then leave. One of the things I also wanted to mention, some people may remember a few months ago that the Notables Project removed themselves from literally thousands of profiles. And the reason we did that, one of the reasons, there were a couple, but we were concerned that people, when they saw our name, that this profile is managed by the Notables Project, wouldn't work on it. And that just having our name on these profiles was scaring people away, as Sandy was saying. So we removed our name from almost all deceased notables. We still keep track of them and work on them, but we did that again because we want people to know that these profiles are available to work on. We certainly can't. The three notables leaders can't do all. I think we had 70,000 notables on WikiTree, and we
That's
certainly
amazing.
are working on those actively. So go in and jump in. And now there's different rules for living notables, so that's a whole nother topic. But as far as anybody that's deceased, if you want to create a profile or work on one that's already there, that's what we're hoping people will do.
And I love that you also put the band name as well. So I'm looking at this. So you got Malcolm Young, and he died in 2017. He does have a profile. He is not connected. He has 0 here for CC7.
Yeah.
That means that they're not even one person.
Yeah,
And
he doesn't have parents, siblings, wife, children, nothing, just him.
And that shocks me. I know that some of these bands are very beloved, and it shocks me. And I will say that a lot of the female rockers are not very connected either. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free. Now,
Can I interrupt on what you were just saying there? If you see 0, it probably means that I created this profile within the last couple months. That they didn't have a profile when we created it just for this project. If they have one or more, a CC7 of 1 or more, that means that profile was already up, created by somebody else. And so, like you see there, a CC7 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
That profile's been up on WikiTree for a while. Somebody created it, added a couple family members, and then moved on, which is fine. But somebody else at some point would like to come in, and you see how brief her
this is sparse.
Her profile is. There's a lot of opportunity, and you can probably get a lot of information on her fairly easily. What year was she born?
She was born in
the 40s.
1953.
Okay. But she's going to be a little more of a challenge in that she's not going to be in the census records, and in her case, the parents are there, so they must be living. But sometimes people that were born in the 50s and forward, parents may still be living also, so that creates a challenge.
And that will affect it. Darren brings up that Malcolm Young now has 311 connections, and I want to point out that when we create this table takes time. This is not a quick 1 hour thing. David and I go through the tables, and we offer up suggestions, and we talk about them. Sometimes people work on them and work on their profiles. So sometimes when we add them to the table, this is kind of the accuracy that we're working on for their CC7. But I'm looking at Johnny Ramone and 36 and not connected. Sometimes I'm just so surprised when you find these, David, and you bring them up, and I'm like, come on, they got to be connected, or they got to have more than that. I'm just totally totally amazed. And what amazes me, you'll see Randy Mesner with the Eagles has 850, but then Glenn Fry, who I will live and die on this statement that Glenn Fry is Mr. Eagles to me. I love Glenn Fry. He has less. So he has 707. It's just amazing to me who you guys like or who you guys stumble on. And I think sometimes I've come around notable profiles that people were just adding as kids and they didn't even know they were notable. They might not even recognize the
Well,
name.
I'm always surprised when I find the parents already on WikiTree. And I think they got all the way to the parents and they didn't know that the next generation was the superstar. And often you'll see the last name of the profile manager will be the same as that celebrity, but they're seventh cousins, so they have no idea that they're that closely related. The other thing, when you see a CC7 of 6 or 7 and they are connected, what's happened there is somebody has gone on, created the profile, and then maybe there's a direct line, father, grandfather, great grandfather, and they're connected. So there's no there's that one line, but there's no other extended family members. So you don't have the grandmothers, you don't have the aunts and uncles, the cousins, etc. You just have that one direct line. They got them connected, and then they moved on. Lots of people like to connect. Connecting is a fun thing for people to do on WikiTree, but we do need people that can, do some profile writing. That profile writing seems to scare a lot of people, and we're actually thinking of doing over on the global project, the global showcase. We're thinking of doing an episode on how to write a biography, because it's really not that difficult. You don't have to be a writer to do it. It's more about listing facts.
And when this is a perfect example, this Bingo Rock, of what David has taught me for writing a profile for, say, somebody like an actor or a musician. Wikipedia already has tables and tables of their recordings, for example, their status on the recordings, how they did on the charts, if they got an award for
filmographies, all that.
They have that discography is all over there. You don't have to recreate it. Don't feel like you got to take that table from Wikipedia and bring it over to WikiTree's profile. It's already done. Just link to it, and that's fine. And I was really thrilled when you were talking to me about that, because at first I thought, I was working on an actress, and I thought, wow, I've got to list every theater production in every movie she's done and the year and who she starred with. And you're like, no, that's already done.
That's easy to find. But what we want to have, and you'll see some lengthy biographies on WikiTree. And when you read it, it's just a history of their career. And it doesn't talk about their life, really. And so many, one of my very first notables projects I did before I was part of the notables team, my first free space page was the Disney project. And it started out really just with Snow White. I had met the woman that did the voice of Snow White when I was young, and thought it would be cool to get her page up. And I believe it was already up, so I didn't create that. But then I thought, I wonder who did the Seven Dwarfs. So I put them up. And each one of them had such a fascinating life story. But their story with Disney and the Seven Dwarfs was basically, a month of their life in the studio recording a voice, and then they went back to their previous life. So to tell the story of their experience with the Seven Dwarfs really minimizes their entire life experience. And these men they were in vaudeville and all kinds of other stuff, but then they also had tragedies in their lives with a child died or spouse died, those kinds of things that they dealt with. And that stuff gets left out of a lot of other resources don't talk. What was their childhood like? Prince, reading about his childhood and his relationship with his parents and all of that kind of stuff. His marriages, the fact that he had a child that was born with a fatal disease and died in infancy. You don't hear much about that. So that's the genealogical stuff and the biographical stuff that we really want to get out there.
And yes, Prince was his real name. We did talk about.
Oh, and he didn't like that name when he was a kid, so he went by the name Skipper. That was the name that he chose, which would have probably changed his entire career trajectory.
I would agree. I think it definitely would. Okay, you guys ready for bingo? Let's bring up bingo and talk a little bit about each one that we come across. We won't spend, oodles of time on each one. David and I generally highlight one major person with our notables bingo, and then we like talking about others. So if you see somebody that comes up and you really like them, you like a song that they did or the band they did, let us know. I mean, let's chat about the music. So Chet Atkins, I think everybody probably knows him from his blue suede shoes, but he, in my mind, he was kind of that classic 50s person as well. Always that guitar in front of him as he went through. And I should say, Ruth, let me backtrack, everybody, if you'll just give me 1 second. I did promise I would share the rules, and I forgot to do that. So for the rules, only one person can win a prize every 6 months throughout all of WikiTree, not just bingo. But if you want a prize do-a-thon or something like that, one prize per person every 6 months, one prize per household every 6 months as well. And there's mugs. There's great mugs, whole bunch of different choices for projects and bingo and WikiTree and genealogy. It's open to everybody. Everybody can join, including your neighbors. You do not have to be a WikiTreeer, but if you do win, please give me your WikiTree ID. It really helps me out. And there will be 2 bingo games per hour. How do you win? You just click. You just go ahead and click on the names as we mention them, and horizontally, vertically, or diagonally, there should be Prince in the free space in the middle. Go ahead and click on him now. If you accidentally click on a name, just click it again, and it will deselect it. And the main thing, don't forget to type bingo in the chat when you win bingo. 5 of you might win at the same time or have bingo at the same time, but only one winner, and that's whoever's the fastest typer. Feel free to yell it at me. I have zero problem with you all saying bingo, bingo, bingo. And do not close down your bingo card. Just because there's a bingo, do not close down your bingo card. Sometimes people will say bingo, not in fun or just, but just try and ask a question and they hit the enter key beforehand. So do not close down your card. Also, I want to just mention one other thing. For those of you that have won a prize, we love it that you guys are here. We appreciate it. Feel free to play along. Just don't say bingo. Okay, so Chet Atkins. I saw a couple people like Chet. And let's see. Who is our next one? Les Paul. I think it was Carol that asked Les Paul. It's kind of hard to talk about guitarists and not mention Les Paul. I'll give everybody a chance to catch up. And we have a couple questions about where this person is or where that person is. We add 50 of them, and then once we get our 50, we kind of don't add any more, because adding 50 is quite a lot. We have to make sure that they are on WikiTree and that there is enough information that we can provide. We don't do living notables on bingo notables, but I believe Peter Frampton is still living.
Yeah, Peter Frampton is still living. And as what Sandy said, that we don't do living notables because there's a lot of other rules that go into it them with privacy. So if we're going to do a project that involves the general membership, not everybody understands the rules. So it just alleviates certain problems. But people are free to work on living notable profiles if they choose. We just don't present them for our activities.
And Django Reinhardt, I think somebody also mentioned that they really liked this guitarist as well. And this kind of goes where we do try to look globally. We honestly do. We try to look at a global base because David, to me, is Mr. Global. And sometimes we get lucky and sometimes we don't. I will say that this particular one, I kind of got a head start on it, and it was hard finding a lot of global guitars.
Yeah, it's hard to find them. So one thing, and this is where only dealing with deceased individuals, it becomes a little bit of a challenge, is that a lot of countries don't have pop celebrities going back 50, 60, 100 years or so. So you're not going to find, you'll find people that may be currently famous in African countries and Asian countries and there, but to find people who music is a little bit different, because music, that they're having people that, but when you're looking for movie stars or television stars, a country like Zimbabwe may not have had many movie stars 50 years ago, so it is a challenge.
And then Jimi Hendrix. I don't think you can talk about guitars either without having Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I think everybody pictures him on stage. He was just such a tall guy, and picture him on stage, just sitting there, really working his guitar. And I've seen some of your comments as well. I understand that working through with connecting a living notable can be tough, because you got to go through a living parent. And we actually had that come up last Wiki Games. We had that come up with some of our Olympians as well. Prince is the man of the hour that we've been talking about and kind of started the theme for tonight. So if you have Prince, go ahead and click his name. And Muddy Waters. I mean, just this really classic, this blues guitar. He was just known for also mentoring others. I just love Muddy. It's just a fantastic sound that he created all on his own. And Glenn Campbell. So we did try to go different genres as well. And for me, I always thought Glenn Campbell started more pop than country, but I don't know. Or maybe it was country and then pop.
Yeah, I think he was definitely country.
And then Chuck Berry. Okay. So we have a picture. David put a picture of Chuck Berry on the Bingo Guitar Rock screen, and that's exactly how I know Chuck Berry. He's like bent over. He is rocking. He's got his, his big shoes on. He is going for it. If Chuck Berry doesn't kind of personify what 1950s music is, and the sock hops and everything else, I don't know what does. I mean, he's just fantastic.
You know how I know Chuck Berry?
How?
My ding-a-ling.
And somebody said that.
Somebody else wrote there, Chris. Yeah. Yeah. When I was a kid, and my mother would play that on the radio.
And Yoku, let me write your name down really quick, because I have this bad habit of forgetting. So congratulations on your bingo. I'm going to assume that it was Chuck Berry that got it. So congratulations. Let me tell you how to claim your prize. You're going to claim your prize by emailing Awen and let her know that you won at bingo. Feel free to tell her you won at the Rocking Bingo, and she will get the information to you on how to claim your prize. That's pretty cool. So it's funny, because that's not how I know Chuck Berry from. But, one of my other things that I think about with Chuck Berry is Back to the Future, the movie Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. I keep thinking of Michael J. Fox, who, by the way, is a really, really good guitarist back in his day before he had Parkinson's. And it was just a funny scene on Back to the Future when he goes, "You're going somewhere, you're good," as he's playing along. So there we go. So we've got, thank you, Karen, for the Back to the Future reference as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about some of these guitar greats as we bring them up. And I'm going to give you guys a chance to bring up the second bingo card for the evening. David, did you have a favorite on this list?
Oh,
I'm going to ask everybody else as well. Did you guys
there's so many. I don't know that I could pick a favorite.
I know. And I really love the different genres, like I said, that you picked. You picked Memphis Mini. And the USVH project just does a fantastic job on their notables. And I love this picture of her with the guitar.
Yeah, I'm looking down the list here. George Harrison was a real
one
in my mind.
And you know, a lot of times we sit there and we think about the person singing the song, and then you hear the kind of the guitar as the song goes. I remember one carpool I always used to say was like the biggest 1 hour, until my son actually got in a car, was the biggest 1 hour waste of life that I had. I was always trying to find something to do. So I'd always come up with these big trivia questions or something for him when he got in the car. And one of the big questions that I had for him that actually went on for a couple of days was, if you hear a guitar lick and no singer, just the guitar lick, and usually at the beginning of a song, what would you say is the most popular or famous guitar lick that you have? And without a fail, he'd always pick Aerosmith. He'd always give me a song from Aerosmith. But I can also see the Beatles. And we talked a little bit. I'm trying to find, there's one gentleman that I'm trying to find. I think we added him towards the bottom. No, here's something too for Buddy Holly. Everybody probably knows Buddy Holly's story. I'm positive everybody probably knows that. And Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper and others died tragically in a plane crash. For those of you in country music, you probably already know this other part of the story for Buddy Holly. Waylon Jennings, a very popular country music act, was very good friends with Buddy Holly and his band. And at the very last minute, gave his seat to the Big Bopper because Big Bopper and Buddy Holly were sick. And he survived and had survivor's guilt the rest of his life from that. But that was always, when I hear Buddy Holly, I think of his music as well. Now,
and it was Richie Valens that was the other.
Oh, you're right.
On there, they're from La Bamba.
And he's another really good guitarist as well. So I'm surprised. I am 18 degrees, but I've got 4 branches from him. I was always kind of curious to see how far I am from somebody in Texas. And I don't know if you have more connections because of your location in Texas, David, or...
Well, I'm not from Texas originally, so I've never looked to see.
And I like my brother loved Buddy Holly and Richie Valens. So it's interesting. This is what kind of David's saying. There's the part about their music, there's a part about their childhood and a part about their life that you could add to the biographies to give them just a little bit more detail. I think that, let's take Prince, for example. I think he would have no problem being known for his music because it was his creative outlet. But I think guys, ignore that bingo card. I just clicked the wrong. I think that he would like being known as well for all the charitable giving that he gave. He was a vegan as well. He's very big into animal rights. So there's more to a person than just the fame that we see. And I'm still trying to find the one. I think we added him later in the... excuse me if I'm giving everybody... there we go. No, we had him. So Stevie Ray Vaughan. if you kind of were around and you heard my story about my poor brother on the roundup, I was talking about my poor brother when Dale Earnhardt Jr. died, or excuse me, Senior died. He was just devastated. Well, the other one that my poor brother was devastated over was also Stevie Ray Vaughan. He actually learned how to play his guitar by kind of imitating Stevie Ray Vaughan, and came up with his own band, created his own band, and started playing all around the state that we lived on, and became really, really well. He's a really great singer. But this is kind of the sad thing too. When we lose one of our singers, it's kind of the song that was created after Buddy Holly, the music dies. And that would be, and I thank you, Ann, for saying that the music died. And Eddie Van Halen, I love that you picked him too. So Eddie Van Halen for me is I love his music, and you all don't laugh at this, but the one thing that I really love about Eddie Van Halen is the Thriller song by Michael Jackson and the Thriller video. That was all Eddie Van Halen, but nobody technically knew it. But if you were a fan of Eddie, you knew it. He had a style. So that opening riff of the song Thriller by Michael Jackson actually came from Eddie. And I like that.
I know there's some controversy over this, but I love the backgrounds that people are putting up on here. Not everybody likes the backgrounds, but depending on your device and how it shows up.
I like this one. This one's his. It's just part of who he was.
Yeah.
And again, tragically died from cancer. He speculated that he died because from his guitar picks. And he had copper guitar picks that he always had, and in between playing, he'd sometimes put them in his mouth on concert and things like that. And he always suspected. I have no clue if that's true or not, but it was interesting to hear that something like that he used so much of his life. He's a genius. His son's really good. If you haven't listened to his son's music, definitely listen to his son's music as well. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our next bingo card. And we're going to talk a little bit more about guitars. Okay, so if you guys are ready, same rules. And you should be able to click in the middle. There's a whole bunch of different types of guitars, from just an acoustic guitar to electric guitar. Feel free, go ahead and click on it now. And let's take our first one. And Glenn Frey, I will tell you again, one of my favorite singers, entrepreneurs, kind of a silly actor if you've seen him in a couple films, but his songwriting as well as guitar. And tragically died of pneumonia. Just, you never know. Terry Kath, this was one that you added, David. I had not heard of Terry Kath before. I didn't think, but I think I might have seen Terry Kath. I'm not sure. He was a founding member of Chicago.
I'm pulling him up here. He was one that was recommended to me. Oh yes, he's the guitarist with Chicago. So he's not necessarily as well known himself, but his band certainly is. And this is one of the things that we sometimes struggle with at the Notables Project is somebody may not have the Wikipedia page or be as famous as an individual, but their group or their organization, which wouldn't exist without them, is famous. So how do you separate them out? We recently had the I don't know if you remember the Nelsons.
Yeah,
they were the twins that I think they were twins, grandsons of Ozzie and Harriet, but they had the band the Nelsons, and the Nelsons band has a Wikipedia page and everything, but the Nelsons themselves don't have Wikipedia pages. So are they notable or are they not notable? Depends on how you want to interpret the rules. So and because they're living, we have very strict rules. We've talked previously about the living notables being more complicated. If they don't have the adequate Wikipedia pages, we as the notables team can't override that. That's a WikiTree rule that is set in stone, that they have to have three different languages of Wikipedia pages, and they have to have family members mentioned in at least 2 of them. So if they don't, which the Nelsons didn't, it doesn't matter how famous the Nelsons are, the individual Nelsons don't get to have open profiles.
That's amazing. And remember, David just said this is a WikiTree rule, not a project rule.
WikiTree rule. So that goes for any project. I've had a couple of people actually ask, well, what if we went over to another project and had them open it? Well, they're not supposed to. I can't speak for them, but they shouldn't be. And the reason for that, you have to remember, even though most WikiTreeers are in the United States, we're not just an American website. We have to follow the rules of basically every country of the world, and some countries have much stricter rules than others. So it's kind of a balancing act as to what we can get away with and not, without losing our ability to exist in European countries and wherever else throughout the world. So it's a tough challenge.
And then Dwayne Allman of the Allman Brothers, they're from a little south of me, my state, Midnight Rider. I'll hear that song and I will instantly stop and sing along. I try to sing silently so people don't hear. What about you, David? Can you sing? Will you bust out a song if you hear it?
When I was young, I used to sing. I once sang the national anthem at Dodger Stadium.
Well, that's cool.
So that's my big claim to fame. But it's been a while and my voice is not what it used to be. So.
Sadly, my voice is still what it used to be. Kurt Cobain. I mean, this is just another guitarist and singer, innovative music. This really took us into a different genre. Almost, the band almost kind of created their own sound and genre and brought others with. I'm not a big fan of grunge. It's not something I listen to a lot, but I do appreciate what he was trying to do. And Johnny Ramone. That one is I just was surprised. He was one of the ones I think on your table that didn't have a lot of CC7. And I don't know. I was just really, really surprised by that. And if anybody is a big fan of Johnny Ramone, then feel free to connect them. Also,
he has a CC7 of 36, so that's pretty low.
That's just crazy to me. And I see, others saying, can this person be included? If you see somebody that you'd like to be included, go to that Bingo Rock page, drop a comment on the bottom of it and say, this person isn't added to WikiTree. And if they are not living, then you can just go ahead and say, I'm going to go work on them and add them to the table if you'd like. We don't have any problem with having additions and looking to see who we can help you with. So Reggie Grimes Jr. So this was an interesting one. I don't know if a lot of people realize that when albums are made and then when you go to a concert, those are 2 different bands. I'll call them bands. So when you're at a concert, generally the artist, if it's a single artist that's up there singing, the band behind him is his concert and his road band. But when a single artist goes and actually makes an album, and it used to be, it's not so much anymore, but it used to be almost forbidden that your road band would come in and make that album with you and record it. So Reggie Grimes Jr. is actually a huge session player. And he recorded on many songs that, are probably familiar to most of us. So he was a guitarist on Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield, Drift Away by Dobie Gray, Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley, and he was actually in a band. I believe it was called the Memphis Boys, if I remember correctly. But when the Beatles came to tour the United States in 1964, that band was one of the opening acts for the Beatles. And he ended his career being a sessions player. And I know I'm going to say this wrong. I'm hoping Joku will maybe help me out with this one. I think do a better job of pronouncing his name better than I'll say Wellender, maybe. But he played with ABBA, and if you notice, I think that they again a very big Swedish metal last week.
Yeah, they won. They were, I believe, they were knighted.
So just, I guess, like they do in England, the Swedish royal family did that as well. And Randy Rhoads. I don't have any information on Randy Rhoads. I'm not sure.
Randy Rhoads. I sometimes have to be reminded we got 50 of them on there. So he was with Quiet Riot. Yeah.
You can't get too much more than that.
Was the songwriter for guitarist and songwriter for the Ozzy Osbourne's first 2 albums, and he is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, that's interesting. Is he in with the band, or is that how that happens?
No, I believe he was in independently.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think.
And I don't know if everybody saw last year, we were doing just a bingo on projects, and we kind of stepped out of that just a little bit and had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame bingo. It was a lot of fun, and we got into a big discussion as well as how do you get in, how's it decided, and really define rock and roll. And that was a question I don't think that will ever be defined on what is rock and roll. It's kind of what it is to you. And Heather, congratulations, you won bingo. And let me bring up the information again for you. This is Aowen at wikitree.com. You're going to email her. She will get you all the information and tell you how to claim your prize and what type of selection there is for your prize. So thanks, Heather, for joining us. You won a prize today. I like how everybody's giving us some names as they go through and some songs. So as we wind down, does anybody right off the top of your head have a favorite rock song, whatever rock is to you? Do you have an absolute favorite rock song? Then let us know. And I can tell you that mine will almost always involve Pat Benatar. So I think probably I'm going to go with, I really like We Belong, but I don't think that's a rock song, really rock song. So I really like Hit Me With Your Best Shot. There's another one that I'll stop in my tracks.
Yeah, I would have to go with Queen, and it could be any song that they ever produced. I don't know that I could pick one favorite.
Oh, you know what Queen song I like, and it drives my husband crazy because it's not just Queen. I love Under Pressure with David Bowie. I mean, how they just do that little thing. Yeah. I love that. And Yellow's an awesome one as well. So you guys are really coming up with a great playlist. Go On Your Own Way, Nights in White Satin, anything, ELO, Landslide as well. We Are the Champions. Love that song. Landslide, I did not realize, but Landslide is very popular as a father-daughter dance when weddings. I never realized that. Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits. Anything Dire Straits sings pretty groovy to me as well. I agree with you. I think Queen is pretty awesome. as we go through. Hello, Kathy. Kathy's we are the champions too. I like the way that they wind it up. That song, how they definitely wind it up. Did you like the movie, David?
The movie, which I lost.
Yeah.
What movie are we referring to?
With Freddie Mercury and Queen.
Oh, you know what? As much as I love Queen, I never saw the movie.
Oh my gosh, you got to do that this weekend.
Yeah.
Hotel California. One of the
I did see that movie.
It's funny. They said that the most popular question, most frequent question the Eagles band has ever gotten throughout their career is, what does Hotel California mean? And they keep telling you it's not that deep. It's not mystical, spiritual. There's no ghosts. There's no time travel. It's just not that deep. Listen to the lyrics and remember the time frame, and you'll be there. I do agree with Ann. I do like some of the early Beatles more than the older ones.
You know, I like all 4 Beatles music after they broke up. Their individual
music. I did too.
More than I like the Beatles as a group, but much more as individuals.
And Pink Floyd, that one's really, really, really good. I know that I don't know why, but my son really, really liked where it came on the radio as we're doing carpool. He also loved, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Alice Cooper's School's Out for Summer. that was always, that had to be on my radio when he was the last day of school. So he really liked that one as well. And
my favorite old time performer, Roy Orbison. Another one who I couldn't pick one song. Everything he does, his voice was amazing.
I don't think anybody's imitated his voice ever, have they? Yeah. I mean, it is the octave. I don't know how he got that high. Mel, Simply the Best is a really, really good rocking one too, that I love. This is funny. You all are really coming up with some good ones. So, this with the Pink Floyd, you can tell that Mike might be dating himself here when he said that he saw the movie Pink Floyd, The Wall in theaters. I assume first release, Mike.
Yes.
I don't know. As we go through. Okay, guys. So I want to give you a sneak peek of what is going to be happening next month. So next month, we're going to give you a little hint. I think this is a big hint, David, but let me see. And you guys have something to look forward to. It's going to be so fun. This is just pure silly fun. And it's come one, come all. And other than that, I would say thanks again.
It's going to be a very fun one, I think.
I think so too. It just brings a smile on my face when I think about it. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you won a prize, don't forget, reach out to Awen and let her know so you can pick your prize. And we will see you guys around the tree until next month. Bye, everybody.